Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Anyegolu. Now, it's a scandal that's ballooned for decades. The deep fake ways in which Nigerian businessmen and government officials worked together to misappropriate billions of dollars under the fuel subsidy regime. Using ghost importing and over-invoicing schemes, companies embezzled the money by submitting claims for fuel that was never imported and inflating shipment volumes that led to them receiving excessive subsidy payments. So much money was being made from importing refined petrol through the subsidy paid to politically well-connected fuel importers that it institutionalized the criminal petrol import industry. Successive Nigerian governments tried to remove the subsidy and introduce a more rational system, but they were prevented from doing so by the threat of near revolution from ordinary people who saw lower fuel prices as their only benefit, until President Tinubu decided that come what may, it had to go. The way a cabal of people have for decades been making money from the murky arrangements has been detailed in a new book titled The Shadow of Loot and Losses, Uncovering Nigeria's Fuel Subsidy Fraud. Well, the book is written by Nigeria's former anti-corruption czar, AbdulRasheed Bawa, CON, who chaired the anti-graft agency, the EFCC, between 2021 and 2023. And Mr. Bawa joins me now in the studio in the first interview he's granted since he left office a couple of years ago. Thank you very much indeed for coming.
Thank you, Giles. Thank you for having me.
How nice to see you, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much. It has been well received,
yes.
All well and good.
And the quality is excellent, I have to say. It always helps when a book is written and the quality is very good, because then it makes it, that's the first hurdle. You know, people, they consume things with their eyes first before they then start actually reading the content.
Certainly.
So well done on that.
Thank you very much.
But just tell us how your book came about and what made you decide to write it.
I think I've detailed all of that in the book. I was part of, the team, special team on petroleum subsidy that was put together in 2012, to investigate petroleum subsidy fraud from 2006 all up until 2011 as at that time. So that is where the idea was hatched, and then I realized, of course, why the investigation was ongoing, that there is need for us to document this. Because even as at that time at the EFCC, we have seen that this is something that has never happened before, and there's opportunity, for us at a particular time to be able to come and document this. And then, of course, there is time, to do that. And then, of course, I took the pen, to write it down and titled it.
How long did it take you to write it?
Well, the idea of writing this book, has taken, several years. But then, of course, pinning down to write it, about a year plus or thereabouts. Yes.
I mean, just give us a sense of the scale of corruption that was in this subsidy regime, because a lot of people wonder, how threatening it was to the economy of this country. And if it was that threatening, why did it continue for so long?
Well, I think the best way to look at it is looking at the amount of money that Nigeria have paid over time, from about 200 billion, in 2006 or thereabout, to about 2.1 trillion in 2011.
That's Naira.
Yeah, Naira, you understand. So you can only imagine, the impact of that amount of money on the economy if it is being utilized to do some other things.
Indeed.
Then, of course, a lot of people will argue that multiplier effect of the fact that cost of production is being reduced by, having, cheaper fuel also impacted on the economy. But that is one way to look at, the scale.
That's an interesting angle.
But that does not in any way mean that, the rise of the payment of petroleum subsidy is as a result of fraud all through. You understand? So I have to be cautious about that. So
no, I understand that, but one has to wonder how the people got away with that incredible criminality for so long.
You know, irrespective of how fortified a system is, you understand, with human touch, there's nothing that cannot be done. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying.
If people are willing to compromise themselves, then the system can be compromised.
Right.
And then, of course, everybody is benefiting from, the scale and the scam. And then that is why it has to continue, and that is why it continues.
Including law enforcement?
Including law enforcement and including everybody. You understand? People can be compromised, in such a way that they will look the other way around. It's a general thing. You don't have to exclude any other person.
Right. And of course, you have said that your book is a call for action. I mean, a demand for transparency, accountability, and reform in Nigeria's public finance management, especially in the oil sector, as you yourself put it. I mean, just tell us more about where you think there are significant shortfalls there.
Well, generally, there is no system that does not demand more improvement. You understand? Human life evolve, organizational life evolve, and criminality also evolved. So every sector has to, be, a step ahead to be able to checkmate some of these things. Some of these things may not be known by law enforcement agencies, but then, of course, they have to find a way, of thinking ahead of them to be able to fortify their system better with technology, and all of that, so that at least they will be able to be, proactive in a way, by checkmating those things. So
and how challenging was it for you? I mean, to investigate something as murky as that when you did? I mean, I guess you brought your years of sort of experience as a detective, as an investigator, and all that to it.
Well, during the course of investigating petroleum subsidy, I was a very young officer. Of course, we are being led by some senior officers. But then, of course, we learned from them. We brought our own, ideas, to the table. So we're able to learn, during the course of the oil marketing companies themselves bringing in documents, and then, of course, learning from other government agencies that are expected to monitor the entire scheme. So we learn on the job, actually, and then we're able to think around and develop red flags, and then, of course, hypotheses, and then test them, against what we know to see areas where that needs to be looked further, and then that is what we did, and we're able to come up with all those discoveries.
And whatever happened to those discoveries?
Of course, a lot of monies were recovered. Some of them were convicted. I think even 3 weeks ago, I was reading on the pages of newspapers that one of them was just convicted, and the case started way back 2012, but it's only in 2025 that justice was served.
And of course, President Tinubu became the president that took the decision to get rid of the fuel subsidy once and for all. Having been a key investigator on that EFCC team that probed subsidy fraud, what did that mean to you as you watched subsidy and all the criminality that came with it finally disappear?
Yeah, it's a good thing that, we had to let it go. You understand? At least it is an opportunity again for us to sit on the balcony and look at things, the way they were, and then maybe, of course, strategize on how better to manage it going forward.
And are you convinced that the removal of that subsidy has led to the recovered or saved funds now being spent in the right place?
Well, I'm not in government, but I believe that a lot of funds must have been saved, because you are incurring a certain expenditure and now you are not. Then certainly, of course, there should be some money, that are saved from not, dealing with that thing that you are dealing with before. You understand? You should know better. You must have asked a lot of people regarding that.
You turn it to me, do you?
Yes, of course.
You're the one who's being asked the questions. But I mean, do you expect that your book and the revelations contained within it, I mean, I haven't read it all, but I've scanned it, and it is a very well written book, very well detailed with a lot of evidence, and published inside it. Do you expect that the revelations contained within it will potentially put pressure on the government to, prosecute more people with regard to fuel subsidy fraud?
No, I think not necessarily. That is already in the past. Decision was already taken, regarding what to do. I remember very well that first set of people were charged to court, another set were charged to court, but then the government realized that, no, look, we don't have to take this path. We have to open the window for recovery, and then of course that window was open. And I think as at the time that I know of, only few oil marketing companies that were identified to have committed the fraud, were yet to complete their own payment. So I think that should be able to seal it. Of course, those that are in court, we should be able to round them up as soon as practicable.
Right. And how does the broad fight against corruption look to you right now under the Tinubu administration compared to when you were fighting?
Yeah, government is a continuous process. The agencies are doing their best, to the best of their ability, looking at the circumstances. And I think, of course, Nigeria will come out of it, triumphantly. Yeah,
but do you think they're doing better than you did? Or do you think you did better than them?
No, it is not for me to decide. There is always room for improvement.
Yeah, but you have your capacity for assessment.
No, I don't have that capacity.
You're clearly a very intelligent young man.
I don't have that capacity for assessment. You understand? It is for journalists like you or for other agencies of government to determine. But there is no even basis to try to compare what is it that was done before, what it is that is being done now. You understand? For everything that government does, it's supposed to be seen that they are improving based on what others have
yeah,
built
but are they improving in your assessment?
Yes, I think they are improving.
Right.
Yes.
And against the backdrop of that pervasive corruption that you talked about that completely dominated the fuel subsidy scheme, what does the future security of this country look like to you right now?
Security of what? You have to
define security. What I'm saying, when you look at the level of fraud that took place over so many years, and then you put that in the context of this country and corruption in so many other sectors and the future of this, what does the future of this country look like to you? I mean, you have a privileged position.
Very bright.
Because you were the chairman of the EFCC fighting corruption.
Very bright, Charles. One has to be optimistic about his country. For anybody that is praying for the leaders of his country to fail, then he's praying for the country to fail. We have to be optimistic about it. The future is very bright for us. And that is why we're having this conversation, to be able to look at what was done before. And then, of course, for those that are in government, to be able to improve on that. So the future is very bright for the country.
And from the perspective of the anti-graft agencies, such as the EFCC, removing the subsidy was good for them, in the sense that it was a way that they could exert some sovereignty or control over at least a section of the very opaque oil sector.
As I said, the investigation that is being detailed in this book, has to do with the period 2006 to 2011. You understand? So there are so many other things that, law enforcement agencies can still look at, that beyond what is documented in the book.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that the removal of subsidy,
yes,
that means that along with the removal of the subsidy, the criminality in that sector also went away.
Certainly.
So that would be a relief to the anti-graft agencies.
Yeah, at least that opportunity, that the regime has provided is no more there. So it is a relief, for the agencies, that are dealing with issues on fraud, to know that, okay, look, we don't have to look at this now. We have to look elsewhere else.
And do you think stopping the fuel subsidy dealt a big blow to corruption in Nigeria?
Certainly.
I mean, or do you think the money? You're starting to answer in monosyllables.
No. You asked a very straightforward question, Charles, and I gave you the answer.
Do you think the money that's been recovered might in itself have become mired in corruption?
No, I think Nigeria as a country, we need to be bold enough to be able to challenge, the international community that is always thinking negative about our own country. That for whatever thing that, this idea of relooting the loot, shouldn't be discussed, against us as a country. You understand? At least, Nigerians and of course non-Nigerians should have the ability for them to trust our own leaders. You understand? And that is why they were elected, and that is why they are in the position of power, to be able to do things for the betterment of our own country. We shouldn't be taking that, because it has come to be like the norm, even from within ourselves, Nigerians, taking what, international community is trying to, perceive us to be.
And do you think that having done this very thorough investigation and research that you've documented in your book, that enough of the people that you found to have been taking advantage of the system, enough of those fuel importers and so on were faced the full wrath of the law?
Yeah, I think so. The book is detailed enough. Unfortunately, you have not read it, cover to cover. You could have seen that, even the number of the companies dropped after EFCC started its investigation from 118 to about 49. And you could have also seen that the payment of the fuel subsidy also dropped from 2-point-something trillion to about 1-point-something trillion. So the impact was actually felt, as a result of the investigation. Even though, of course, some people will argue that yes, of course, there was increase in the prices of petroleum products at that time that actually helped to reduce, the fuel subsidy payments by the government. But the impact is real, and the frauds that were identified also, helped to dealt a very good blow to those that are, participating in the scheme of petroleum subsidy fraud.
Do you think fraud has become a political weapon in this country, where sometimes allegations of fraud are leveled against people who really are not necessarily fraudulent, but is used as a political weapon? I mean, you worked in the EFCC, and you must have seen, because there were a lot of allegations of people saying that, charges were, meted against them. Sometimes it was selective in terms of who got prosecuted and who didn't. I mean, what was your experience of all that?
People will always talk, Charles. Whether you are saying the truth, people will say you are lying. Whether you are telling them lies, they will say you are lying, because maybe that is what they want to hear. You understand? But I think what matters the most is the fact that people should be able to feel that what is it that they have done, actually by themselves, because they know. After all, we are all going to die, Charles. You understand?
You're kidding.
Of course,
I wasn't planning on dying.
No, of course you will die one day, Charles, and of course there will be the ultimate judgment. So people shouldn't be saying that what people are saying, whether it is true or not. I think the law enforcement should be focused in trying to determine, what they are mandated, to do as an agency, and then of course individuals that are involved should be able to face that, head on. You understand what I'm saying? Whatever it is.
But it's interesting in the Nigerian context that the reason I asked that question is that virtually every chairperson of the EFCC has left office under a cloud of allegations of corruption or this or that or whatever. And you have to wonder, I mean, you yourself went through the same thing, and then you have to wonder whether there is an element of political vindictiveness that comes with it.
It's just part of what it is. As I said, you understand. One just has to take it as a phase and just move on. People will always talk. People will always say things.
Yeah, but it's not quite deep when the government comes after you, the same government that you served.
Whether you are in government or you are not in government, people will always say some certain things.
No, but what I'm saying is that it's not just people, is it? I mean, it's the government coming after you.
Yes.
You see what I mean? So it's happened with virtually since the EFCC started, every single chairperson has left with this cloud behind
Conduct
them.
a research on that and let us know what the
well,
outcome is.
I'm asking...
I'm not in the position to answer that.
Okay, what was your experience in that regard, your own personal experience?
It's just a phase that has to come and go, and then of course...
Because you were never prosecuted.
It's just a phase that has to come and go, and then of course here we are.
But is that normal? Is that something that you think is the way that it's almost become customary that every chairman of the EFCC, once they leave, they must be probed?
No. It's not the norm. It's not every chairman that passes through that. You understand? It all depends on the circumstances and the situation, and then of course, available information as at that time, and then of course, certain decision has to be taken. It's what it is, Charles.
Right. But just returning to your book, which is, well, I'm sure that's where you really want to return to. I mean, where can people get this book if they wanted to get it? And what are you planning to do? Because, I mean, this would be a great resource for even universities, secondary schools, all that sort of thing. I mean, this is the book. It's very well produced. So I would certainly recommend it. And you were going to sign a copy for me.
Yes, I came with a copy for you. I will autograph it for you.
Well, thank you very much.
It is on Amazon. Robin Hyde is the one that is distributing it
Right.
in all their bookshops. It can be gotten in hardcover and, of course, in paperback.
Right. Well, I want to thank you very much indeed, and
Thank you very much.
congratulate you
Thank you very much
for
for having
writing
me.
such a lovely book,
Thank you
and
very
for
much.
refusing to answer half my questions.
I've answered all your questions.
Well, you did try.
Don't try to act and behave, you know, the way that most Nigerians will want to behave. That questions has to be answered the way you want them to be answered.
No. Obviously, it's your entitlement.
Yes.
But we're glad that you gave us the opportunity to sit down and have a chat.
Thank you very much.
We're very honored. to
You're
have
always
you here.
welcome.
And that is The Shadow of Loot and Losses, Uncovering Nigeria's Petroleum Subsidy Fraud. It's written by AbdulRasheed Bawa, CON, who chaired the anti-graft agency, the EFCC, between 2021 and 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good to
I
see
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.